Skeptic. If the world really was round, wouldn't there be some sort of evidence we can search out for ourselves?
What?
We just see flatness everywhere. Look, have you ever seen the horizon? It's flat.
Did you check all the facts? Why don't you just check all the facts, please?
You're telling me the same force that keeps my feet glued to the Earth's surface also keeps the moon in orbit around the Earth? That right there makes no sense.
I see. It makes sense if you know what gravity is.
And you'll see the red line, which represents the tilt, is where the ice caps are now, pointed directly at the sun. Makes a lot of sense, I guess, if you're stupid.
The sun is not that high up. The sun is directly on the left in the center, right here. It is not up here. It is right here. The sun is pointing directly at northern Africa, not directly at the North Pole.
But let's look now at an unsolved mystery, the mystery of the magical globe spinning, flying through space.
The pièce de résistance.
Once you get man to believe he can live on a globe, what else could you convince him of? That man went to the moon, perhaps, with the technology of an Etch-a-Sketch?
Sir, I will have you know that we had perfected the Etch-a-Sketch by then. Do you realize we had computers in the 60s, right? You know we had computers back then.
That stars are trillions of miles away?
No, they're much further away than that.
That the Russians are your enemy?
What?
That there was a Cold War and a space race in which a shot was never fired?
Yeah, that's the definition of a Cold War.
Could they convince them that the Arabs want you dead?
Oh, which Arabs? There are Arabs that are doing a pretty good job of convincing us on their own, thank you very much.
And that ISIS beheads people viciously, but always turns off the camera right before and speaks in British accents?
I can actually understand that one because at least I too am skeptical of things that I cannot see with my own eyes. So you know the British accent thing makes sense, right? ISIS is made up of people from all around the world. Why would they have somebody that can't speak English giving messages to English-speaking people?
That taxation is good, that evolution is true, that God doesn't exist, that you're not smarter than a 5th grader, that you're not a unique individual, and that you're only from supernova bits?
Whoa, conspiracy theories much?
First image here is pretty clear to see what I'm showing. If you've ever done perspective drawing, this just shows you that the end of that bridge there at the horizon could look like a point, but the horizon is flat.
I won't argue that the horizon is flat. In fact, the horizon is supposed to be flat if we're on a globe. If the world is flat, that horizon should continue on forever, and we should be able to see into infinity to where that dock actually ends.
We're going to take some flights now, take a look what's seen from the airplane, because if one more clown comes into the comment and tells me that they see a curve from a plane, flip out, man.
Oh, you don't have to get that angry at the trolls. I mean, sure, nobody in their right mind would ever say that they see a curve on the horizon when they're only airplane height up from the ground.
I even had some pilot come in and tell me he would take me up in the airplane and show me the curve. So I don't want to go anywhere where anybody who's a pilot is going to show me any curve that's not there. Maybe he means he's going to crash the plane or something. I don't know. Count me out, Mr. Pilot Man, since you are a lying sack of potatoes. Basically, you need to start envisioning what you believe, because if the Earth was curved, why isn't the atmosphere curved with the Earth?
Oh yeah, because the atmosphere is curved with the Earth. You are only like 30,000 feet above the ground. You're, for all intents and purposes, on Earth. You're not going to see the curve. You are too close to the subject to see the shape of it.
You'll see here I'm pointing out that this is just a layer of clouds. Otherwise, the Earth is an infinite plane, flat as could be.
But you believe the Earth goes on forever? I mean, even most flat earthers don't think the Earth is an infinite plane.
And so the atmosphere, which goes as high as the eye can see, would have to curve with the Earth if you guys say there's a curve, which you do say, and you do lie.
Yeah, there's an easy test for this. If the world is round, then where the horizon ends, the atmosphere would overtake it. And is that what you see? Do you see the atmosphere touching the edge of your sight line there? Because I do, because the atmosphere curves past that curve of the Earth.
That is not a curve. If you want to picture that as a curve, then you need to continue that circle out. Imagine drawing that line all the way out as a circle. It would be about 100 times bigger than the Earth.
Yeah, you're right. That's not a curve. You would have to be much, much higher. You'd have to be above the Earth's atmosphere before you even start seeing any kind of curve. And even then, you're not going to catch it on a camera. No camera has as wide an angle as you need without you eventually getting the distortion of the fisheye lenses. The only way to see the Earth's curve from a camera is to film it from orbit.
Remember that when pilots fly, they fly by keeping even with the horizon. So again, I don't want to be in any plane with any pilot that sees a curve, or else probably the last flight I'll ever take.
Yeah, except from the perspective of a pilot, the curve would be so small it would be almost impossible to see with the naked eye. I want you to meet a friend of mine that I've created, because all my friends are created. His name is Lanky Larry.
Hello.
Lanky Larry is the height of the tallest building in the world in Dubai, and he's on a planet that's much, much smaller than the moon. When Lanky Larry looks to his left and right, he can only see so far before the horizon escapes him, and it seems to be about the same distance on both sides where he's standing. And if he looks to his front and his back, he will again only be able to see so far before the horizon escapes him. If you look from a bird's eye view of what he can see, it's a perfect circle. So no matter what direction he looks at, the horizon is in the exact same spot. So from his perspective, he just sees a flat line. And this is why the world looks flat to people who are on top of a ball.
Oh, the horizon's quite jibbly in it.
So if anybody's got any comments on why they still think it is a globe, hopefully it's not just because, well, that's what I was taught, man. I love the globe. So pretty. It spins through space.
Oh yeah, I love the globe. I cuddle it to sleep every night.
Nicholas Copernicus was not the first person to prove that the Earth goes around the sun, because it's never been proven. He simply was the first one to say it. That's it.
No, he was the first to prove it. The first person to ever accurately prove that the world was round was Aristophanes back in the 3rd century BC in Greece. During the summer solstice, when the sun was at its highest point over the northern hemisphere, he and an assistant both stuck sticks into the ground, one in Alexandria and one in Syene. One stick had a shadow that was almost directly straight down, and the other stick had a shadow that was pointing north. This was enough evidence to prove that the Earth had a curvature to it. And using this information, he was pretty damn close to guessing what the world's circumference was.
And then, where do you guys get off in making fun of Christians and religious people when, do you know where your science came from? Do you think that there was atheists walking around preaching science 400 years ago? Do you think Copernicus was a atheist? No, these guys were Christians. Rene Descartes, Galileo, Kepler, Francis Bacon, Tycho Brahe, Newton. All these guys were Christians, and they're the ones who came up with the things that you now back and make fun of Christians with.
Christian scientists are after what any scientist is after, the truth. They want to know how things work, why things are what they are. And if God is the answer, so be it. But God had to do it in a certain way, right? God had to give the earth a certain shape, correct? So what if the world is round? Why wouldn't a God create a round world? Why wouldn't a God create a solar system or a universe?
You just believe whatever you're told and walk around with your chest puffed out, acting like you're cool, commenting on my videos. Oh, you don't believe in gravity, ha 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 ha.
Yeah, well, if you don't believe in gravity, what is it that keeps you stuck to the ground? What's the name of that force?
No, I don't believe that people are upside down on the bottom of a sphere, because it's impossible.
Why is it impossible? It's not impossible for a bubble to stay stuck to a sphere that's submerged in water. Why wouldn't that bubble just escape up into the air? Wouldn't that be easier? No, because there are other forces that are keeping it there. Just like there's a force keeping the penguins stuck to the bottom of Antarctica.
Let's get back to looking at some other proofs besides just what we're told from people who lived 500 years ago, who obviously knew nothing if they thought the sun was 3 million miles, and now you guys think it's 92. Who knows what it'll be tomorrow?
You realize, of course, that the things that we were told by people 500 years ago about gravity and the world being round turned out to be true, right? And the things that we were told about the sun being a certain million miles away, how could they have known? There's no way they could have known how far away it was.
Here we got Felix Baumgartner at 127,000 feet. You can look out his little window there, and what do you see? Curved or flat?
Flat. Do you remember Lanky Larry? Lanky Larry's head is well above where Felix Baumgartner's pod was.
And now they switched camera views, and what is that?
A picture of the Earth as taken from a fisheye lens. Even if he was able to claim that he saw any amount of curve of the Earth from that perspective, there's no technology today that's able to show exactly what the human eye can see. Any camera that would show that same perspective would have distortion.
So it just went from flat to having the biggest arc ever seen. I mean, this is what you guys believe.
His pod had 4 separate external cameras, one to see him directly straight on as he walked out of the pod, one from the opposite angle where he could see his right side, and then there were 2 on his left side. One was a fisheye lens and one was a normal camera. This is what Felix would have seen from his angle. This is what a normal, non-distorted camera looks looks like. Nobody is claiming that this footage is proof that the world is curved. Who is telling you this footage is proof that the world is curved? Nobody with half a brain would say that to you.
And just because it has NASA written on the side of that little capsule, you guys are ready to masturbate over it.
Actually, it says Red Bull on the side of that capsule.
So let's watch Atlantis take off from a plane. This excited me. I said, woo, I'll get to see the first thing enter space. But of course, I thought that, but I knew better to ever think that NASA would show us anything other than the same old shit they always show us. So go ahead and watch this, and let's see how the video ends. I mean, honestly, who would stop that video right there?
You can watch footage of a rocket entering space anytime you want from the ground, but you don't actually see it enter space. It doesn't look differently. It just eventually gets smaller and smaller to the point where you can't see it anymore.
Here we see a hill or a curve. You can do this in the front of your house if you've got one of these. Just take a camera and raise it from the ground level straight up, and you'll see how the horizon line drops down. You can see it in every one of these. Test it yourself. Drops. This hill drops. Does anybody see that?
Yeah, I don't see your point, though. The horizon in the distance is staying at the exact same spot. If it drops or raises in the distance, it's because the cameraman is tilting the camera. What are you doing to ensure the camera stays perfectly still? Are you using a boom arm? Are you using a tripod? Or are you just fucking lifting it?
And here you can see on the right side is a little animation. Left side's a real video, and you can just kind of get the idea of what we mean by the sun goes so far it is out of your view. It is beyond your sight level and your perception, and that's what gives us the impression of the sun coming up in the east, setting in the west, when actually it's circling above our heads.
That doesn't make any sense. There's no point where the sun should be far enough away that you can't see it, even if it's in our sight line. The only way it can possibly disappear from being too far away is if it drops below the horizon.
As can be seen by many different you can see right there, I saw the shadow of the sun in the water. Yet, you think we're on a spinning globe, which just doesn't make sense. Think about it. In order to see what we see in the night sky with the stars rotating in a disc-like circle, the Earth would have to do loop-de-loops throughout space. Loop, 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 jump, loop. It can't just spin on its axis, or else the stars would move in a completely parallel line, left to right or right to left.
Unless you're at the equator, you're going to see the stars kind of curve in the sky. There's going to be a pivot point. One thing these animations don't show is the stars moving at the exact same speed as the sun, which would suggest either the whole sky is moving at the same time, or, follow with me now, the fucking Earth is spinning and everything that we see in the sky is relatively staying still to our perspective. Most observatories are pretty far north or pretty far south, so you're going to see a pivot point in the sky where the north or the south pole actually pivots. That's unavoidable. There aren't any observatories on the equator because there's very terrible observation conditions on those areas. So you can see quite clearly in these time lapses, the stars are all moving in unison with each other. But if you'll see in these last few time lapses, the sun is moving at the exact same speed as the stars.
Look at that little box on the left, and you can see how University of California teaches lies. I'm sure this is what they show all those highly educated members of academia with their diplomas from the University of California and their sweater vest. And you'll notice that the water quickly rises in the ocean. This is another thing they should teach, I'm sure. Look how much higher that water is now compared to that brown line is when it started. So this is no proof of anything other than they edited this video and continued to move the camera lower and lower to give the impression of the boat going over the horizon.
I don't understand. If the camera was being lowered more and more to make it look like the water was rising, how would that make the ship look like it was disappearing over the horizon the exact same way? If anything, all it should have done is changed our perspective of the boat.
When all they did was, I guess, fill up the ocean with a bunch of water.
I'm sorry, is that an actual hypothesis? Do you propose that they actually added more water to the ocean? How does that explain the boat going lower over the horizon? If anything, it should just be raising the boat up higher if the world was flat.
Or move the camera, and you also notice that it did cut every time the boat moved further.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you wanted to see the full 2-hour version. Go to the ocean and watch a ship go away. You will see the same thing. Put the camera on the tripod so that you don't get accused of raising or lowering the camera like whoever filmed that film. And the last thing you will see is the top of the mast.
So you can see that all it is a mirage. It is the melting of the horizon because of the refraction, just like you see here, the mirage in the road.
That doesn't explain why the mast continues to go down, though. If the optical illusion works the way that you say, why doesn't it look like the ship floats off into space instead of sinks down further into the horizon?
Or is somebody going to tell me that that yellow truck has now gone over the edge of the curved earth?
No, it looks like that truck is flying away, but that ship didn't look like it was flying away. It looked like it sank.
Next, we get to see Orion. All right, NASA, spend more of our tax money on nothing.
Orion now at an altitude of 470,000 feet, 900 miles from its splashdown target. Guidance officer confirms that Orion has reached entry interface. The moment of truth for Orion for the next 9 minutes, 45 seconds.
Now, first thing that hits my brain is
the pain from the electroshock therapy.
I understand that we have to add these special tiles to the bottom of the shuttle so that it can withstand the 400 or 4,000, 3,000 to 4,000 degrees as it re-enters the atmosphere and goes through this plasma shield or something. So as they are re-entering, they have to angle the space shuttle so that it hits just perfectly, or else Wikipedia says it might skip, or they might fake kill a bunch of people in a shuttle disaster too. A lot of things NASA can do. Pretty amazing.
Whoa, so you're saying those astronauts that lost their lives in all of those disasters where shuttles exploded for one reason or another, those were all fake? Those are all fake. That's what you're telling us.
But my problem with this is, how are we looking through a piece of glass?
What?
Can somebody please find me the glass that can withstand 4,000 degrees? Because I can find glass that can withstand 2,500 degrees.
The only part of the shuttle that's exposed to that amount of heat is the underbelly of the shuttle, and that's all carbon fiber. It's all shielding. The glass never touches the flame. Look at this picture. The flames deflect around the glass that's on the shuttle.
We're 4 minutes away from the jettison of the forward bay cover at the very top of the spacecraft that will begin the chute deployment sequence.
Who calls it a chute deployment sequence?
NASA! NASA calls it that! NASA!
And do you hear these binaural beats in the background? Don't put your headphones on or you'll end up shooting up a theater in Aurora.
Jesus Christ, dude. Can you stick to one conspiracy theory at a time, please?
And we've reacquired signal from Orion. Good data being processed.
Oh, thank God. They got good data. Honey, they got good data!
Aw, that's cute, pretending you're in a relationship.
Whew, I was worried. Sweating that one out. Very amazing science going on there. So now you'll see we are back, well, almost through the atmosphere right now. There's still some fire. And in a second, you're going to see how this proves the flat Earth. Now here, you will see
Flight
that
Dynamics Officer reports that we're
looks
tracking
convex,
right
so-
down the middle.
Honey, they're tracking right down the middle! Sweet! This is going to help our lives immensely.
All right, stop pretending you have a girlfriend. You're just insulting both of us now.
Here you can see it actually looks convex.
You mean concave. Normally it is convex.
You'll see here this is balancing out. And ladies and gentlemen, the Earth is not a globe. You know this by now. If it were, imagine the amount of pictures we'd have.
It's a fisheye lens. You've already berated fisheye lenses. Why are you using a fisheye lens as proof now?
If we'd been to the moon, imagine how many times we would have gone back.
Yeah, we only went back a couple. Do you not realize how expensive a moon mission is?
Imagine the condominiums.
You think people would be living on the moon? There is no oxygen on the moon.
Instead, we just stopped going and everybody keeps believing because they don't want to cry when their globe's taken away and they realize that they're not just one of a zillion planets. There's only the Earth.
If my knowledge of history serves me correctly, people cried when they found out that they weren't on the only planet in the universe.
Honestly, was there anything impressive about what we just saw? I thought the CGI graphics were horseshit.
You've been watching too much Wag the Dog, dude. If NASA's intention was to trick us, why would they use such shitty visuals?
So just some crap Wikipedia sites, and 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, it says, is the temperature at the re-entry, even though the announcer said 4,000. We'll take 3 to 4,000, let's say. They got a bunch of BS materials, you know, reinforced carbon, that exists.
Yeah, it does exist. Here's a picture of some. Look it up.
Fibrous refractory composite insulation. We've got toughened unipiece fibrous insulation. We've got Made-Upica, Stupidica ceramic tiles.
You're just assuming that all of these materials are made up simply because you don't want them to exist. How hard is it to look up how these things are made? You can go to museums and see examples of these things. Go to NASA, they have a viewing area where you can see these materials.
Even though the outside surface of the shuttle could not withstand higher than 347 degrees. And if you look at the bottom there, it says that the tiles had to be glued on. Yes, you heard me correctly. Glued. You know, that kind of glue that can withstand 4,000 degrees. I think it's called Elmer's.
No, you're looking right at the wiki site. It says silicone glue, very similar to bathroom caulking. Silicone glue is well known for being heat and cold resistant. And the glue isn't directly on the belly of the shuttle. It doesn't receive any direct heat from the 4,000 degree flames that blast off of the tiles. The tiles absorb the heat and dissipate it. Do some research. Look at how these things work. Go to NASA, ask the people at the museum. Don't fucking come on the internet and just make shit up because you don't want to accept it as true.
Recap, do your research.
Yeah, in this video, only one of us did research.
Get in a plane and go fly. And stop saying you see a curve.
Some people have claimed to see the curvature of the Earth from up in the airplane. 30,000 feet should be high enough to see a bulge, but you're never going to see the horizon curve. Remember Lanky Larry? You might see the bulge of the Earth, but no matter what direction you look in, you're going to see a straight line. The only way we would see a curve on the horizon is if the world was the shape of a cylinder.
And you also don't see boats going over the horizon, so stop saying that.
Are you sure? Let me try. Oh, there it goes. Oh, it looks like it's it looks like it's got one. It's gonna go.
I guess you were right.